I've always had like a Traeger or grill or whatever. Now I have a Traeger. It's just the Pro 780. It gets the job done. And then I have a big green egg as well, and I don't really ever turn on my oven.
Yeah.
Always just throw it on the Traeger or the grill, especially in the summer. I don't
Mm.
like heat. I'd rather go grill when it's 120 than turn on my oven when it's 120 outside. Like I would rather sit out there and not heat up my house.
Hmm.
So, yep, just I my wife's like, "Why don't you do this full time? Not full time, but she's like, you should start doing like recipes and stuff." She's like, "There's not." We like looked on YouTube, and there's really not. There isn't too many pages that are just
Hmm.
gluten free or um, there's some baking stuff and there's some, but it's not as big. And
Everyone, and welcome back to the RedBeard Outdoors Podcast. I'm Jonathan, your host, and we've got a special guest for you guys today. Today being the Saturday sit-down edition of the podcast. You get the full-length episode where, I came across TJ here, TJ Perez, and he does amazing photography work. You've probably seen his work on the Montana Knife Company page, and also he's got two different pages that he runs as well. One of them being the Gluten-Free Dad. Took me a minute to realize that they were the same person running these two different pages that you had, but once I figured that out, I definitely want to get TJ on here because, as you guys know, I'm gluten free as well, not by choice. I call myself a glutard. It's the new title that I give myself, but we definitely have that in common. And TJ does some amazing recipes on his pages, and also he's a dad. Husband, he's got a job, so he's got a whole bunch of other things going on too. He doesn't just take cool photos and cook good food. So, with that being said, I wanted to bring TJ on to share all of that with you guys, and for those those out there that also deal with the gluten. I can't say the R word. The the word I would usually say, but the gluten intolerance, not by choice. TJ is your man as far as some recipes go. So with that, TJ, who are you, man?
hey, thanks for the intro. It's awesome to have me on. And so my name's TJ Perez. Yeah, I wear many hats: photography, cooking. I have a full time job. Dad, one, two, and second one on the way next month. Um, so yeah, I started the that gluten free dad about like in November. It's just something I kind of wanted to start, and then my wife got sick, like morning sickness, and just nausea with her pregnancy. So I kind of like fell off on it. So I'm kind of kicking it back off. But I cook a lot. I was diagnosed with celiac in 2019. I kind of just said, I'm gonna F that. I don't care, whatever. And then,
Yep.
and that was in May of 2019. And then COVID hit and everything shut down. So I said, well, if I'm cooking dinner every night, I might as well just cook gluten free. So did that for about 3 months, and stuff finally started to open. And I just said, let's just get some pizza. Like, I think we got Papa John's,
Mhm.
and it just destroyed me. I was so sick for like 2 days. My stomach was just like inflamed. I couldn't get out of the bathroom. Um, it's the last real pizza I ever had. It wasn't even something good. It
Mm.
was Papa John's. So Ben's like gluten free ever since. So about April of 2020, been 100% gluten free, and I've always loved to cook. I've been cooking with my dad since I was about two, and I think COVID is somewhere like I really took a turn into like really stepping up my game with cooking. I've always had like a Traeger or grill or whatever. Now I have a Traeger. It's just the Pro 780. It gets the job done. I actually traded photos for it. This guy I did cocktail photos for. He got it on trade for photos, and then the job fell through. And he's like, "Hey, just keep the Traeger." I was like, "Okay." So, uh, and then I have a big green egg as well, and I did some photos for Barbecue Island, and got a deal on that. So I run both of those kind of like I don't really ever turn on my oven.
Yeah.
Always just throw it on the Traeger or the grill, especially in the summer. I don't
Mm.
like heat. I'd rather go grill when it's 120 than turn on my oven when it's 120 outside. I would rather sit out there and not heat up my house.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep, my wife's like, why don't you do this full time? Not full time, but she's like, you should start doing like recipes and stuff. She's like, we like looked on YouTube and there isn't too many pages that are just
Mm-hmm.
gluten free or um, there's some baking stuff and there's some, but it's not as big. And she does a lot more research than I do. I think it's like 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 people have
Yeah.
like a gluten allergy or whatever. Um, so yeah, started with just I think I started with orange chicken. Because I was just like I having celiac, you don't get to eat a lot of Chinese food. So
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that's easily replaceable. You're just replacing the soy sauce with a gluten-free soy sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, just started with the orange chicken to start, and then I have some other recipes that I'll be kicking out this summer. I'll have 8 weeks leave from my day job starting in August, um, since my son will be born. So I will have a lot of
Oh, that's
recipes
awesome.
and stuff
That's
out.
awesome.
So
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And that is exciting. I would agree. There's definitely a lot of like baking pages and stuff like that. But um, even before I found out about my gluten intolerance, I wasn't much of a sweets guy anyway. And if I did go sweets, it was like fruity,
I'm the exact
sour.
same way. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So even if it was more on the savory side of sweet, I would say.
Mm,
And so for me, things like, baking and all that, like, yeah, cake every once in a while is okay, or I would eat it because everyone else is eating it, but it's not really a thing for me. And yeah, you'll be surprised. Like when I found out that soy sauce had gluten in it, the majority of them, not all of them,
mm,
I was like, oh crap, okay, well that's something else I need to cut out. But like liquid aminos is a great substitute for that. I love doing stir fry with that. And I would agree with you too. The Traeger, I haven't gotten a green egg. My dad really wants one. I haven't gone down the charcoal rabbit hole yet.
I love
But
it.
I will say that the Traeger, and we were talking about this beforehand, having a good set of kitchen tools, especially knives, like we both work with Montana Knife Company on that end, it changes the game. And then having a good grill or a green egg. I don't know if you call those a grill, but the
So
charcoal,
it's
some
a
kind of.
grill smoker. It's kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because when I tell people I cook on the Traeger all the time, they're like, "Oh, see, I'm not much into smoking." I'm like, "Actually, I haven't even tried smoking anything yet. I just like the grill. Like it
Yeah.
does an amazing job."
Yep.
And I also have the meter
The
wireless
probes.
probes. Oh my gosh, dude! Like being able to set that, and I can go get a workout in. I can do whatever, and then I get a ping on my phone. Oh, internal temperature's where it needs to be. Boom, pull it off. I've never had dried chicken since then. I don't have dry meat. Like it's amazing. It's awesome. Instead of having to set a timer, check it, pull a piece off, cut it in half. Oh, that's still kind of rare. Like all of
Mm,
that crap they used to do.
takes the
Now it's
guessing
just,
work out.
oh, it's so easy, so easy. So I definitely agree that makes a world of difference. But I think it's a great idea that you've got, and hopefully we can push some people towards your channel as well as you start to grow the YouTube side of things, because you really do have some awesome ideas. You make it look good anyway. I don't know if it tastes good. I haven't tasted it, but I imagine it tastes good.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Thank you.
So that's awesome, man. That's really cool.
Yeah. The thermometer thing, I would say that is the most. I think I'm not underrated, but I think it's people just misconception of like
Yeah,
it is the
overlooked.
best, the most tool or the most used other than the kitchen knife. It is the most used tool I use in my kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
with everything.
Oh yeah.
Obviously not pasta, but meat
Yeah.
wise or whatever, I'm using either I have a ThermoWorks, the MK4 and the one or whatever, the thermal
Mm-hmm.
one. I have both of those, and then I have two meter probes as well. Um, it is a game changer, especially like chicken.
Mm-hmm.
I set the breast 158, and as soon as it hits 158, I'll pull it, I'll wrap it, and then I let it rest for 15-20 minutes. And the next day, if I microwave the chicken, there's juice coming out.
Mm-hmm.
My mother-in-law doesn't even like to order chicken at places. She's like, it's just always dry compared to yours. And even like steak. I think my friend's wife, she calls me the steak daddy. But she like we go to like a lot of nice restaurants with them, like double date and stuff, and she's like, "There's not too many steaks that are better than yours." Like
Mhm.
even we'll go to some of the nicest restaurants here in Phoenix or Scottsdale, and she's like, "Your steak, I think, is better." And she
Yeah.
like, so now it's kind of like a standard that we have. It almost kind of sucks. Like when you get to a certain level of cooking, you're like, I could have made this for a quarter of the cost. It would have been
Mhm.
better, and I don't have to go anywhere like get dressed up or spend all this money. I mean, it's obviously fun to go out, but
Yeah. 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 No, I agree. And it is, when you get to the point where, um, it's usually, the $100 or I can't say $100 meal, but like the $60-$70 steaks, that's when you're like, okay, that was different. But anything like I'll just say like Texas Roadhouse or the
yeah,
typical ones that you go to, it's kind of like,
you're grabbing
yeah, I'm
A1.
here for the family. I'm not
Yeah,
necessarily here because it's good, right? It's okay. And that's kind of a bummer, but I would agree. Having good tools in the kitchen definitely changes. It honestly has made me want to cook more. Even the cutting board, having a good cutting board
hmm,
that the juices aren't, falling all over the place. To have that little trough that goes around
yep,
the edge there to catch that. All of those things, and it being wood and, stuff like that is a big, it really, I hate using the word game changer because it's used so much, but it really does change your experience in cooking if you have those good tools that, that you can use, and you don't have to worry about it so much. I don't light burgers on fire anymore, or things like that with the Traeger. You just you set it, literally set it and forget it until you get the ping on your phone. It's super nice to be able to do that. So that's cool. So with, you kind of walked us through your understanding of gluten and how you came to find out that you had a problem. Um, how has it really affected you though? Like, what are I guess, what would be the three things that you were like, man, this is gonna suck to give up?
oh, like three food items.
Yeah.
Ah, I think it's Asian food for one.
Mm.
I other than like, I mean, I'm Mexican, but like I love because most almost everything Mexican is gluten free, minus like corn
Hmm.
tortillas and some dishes, but burritos obviously. But I would say Asian food is probably the number one, mainly because like even there's a Gus's Fried Chicken down the street, and
Hmm.
they actually use cornstarch for their fried chicken, and so I just asked them to like switch their gloves there, and then don't like leave bread off of my plate. Um, I would say that, and then appetizers as a whole at a restaurant. Because it's hard. Like we went to it's called Hop Social here in Phoenix. It's like by the Chandler Mall, but
Yeah. Yeah.
every appetizer there has gluten in it. Like even like their chips for their artichoke dip.
Mm.
uh, basically, their chips are fried in the same fryer as other food. So it's kind of like you're left out a little bit on the appetizer. You're just sitting there like waiting, and then I wouldn't even say it's food related or like
Mm.
a specific item. It's your son or kid trying to touch your food after they have a handful of mac and cheese or whatever. Because I mean, I have celiac, so even
Yep.
just cross contamination, technically, I'll get sick. So it's like he's 2, almost 3, doesn't understand. Hey, yeah, I can't have this or whatever. He'll just grab my like we were at a restaurant in California, and he just grabbed my steak, and Paige, my wife, she looked at me and she's like, "Well, if you're still hungry, we can order some more food," because he just grabbed my. I mean, he loves steak, but so I was just like, "Okay, I guess I'm done eating tonight."
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, and honestly, I don't notice it a ton with cross contamination. That's kind of a bummer. I know people on one extreme that if the pan has ever been used for anything with gluten in it, their body just collapses. And then I feel like I'm on the other end of the spectrum where it's like, as long as it doesn't have gluten in it, like I'm okay. I don't
Oh,
notice
that's
the
good.
bloating and the other issues that you get. But I guess I should even hit on that a little bit. I don't know if I've explained to people, and maybe they should understand it, because I didn't even realize what to look for. When you have issues like celiac, or even getting to the way my doctor explained it to me was like, you are basically pre-celiac, kind of like pre-diabetes. Treat it like you have celiac, and so it doesn't progress even further. And so the big things were being able to swallow. For me, was a big deal. They actually, when they went in to scope me, because I was having issues, I would almost choke on drier food like chicken, rice, things like that. I wasn't able to really swallow it. I don't know if you had that issue, but
Mm-mm.
my throat was so inflamed that they said when they went in to scope me, it was literally the opening of my esophagus was the size of a pea.
Oh my
And they were
gosh.
like, how are you even able to swallow? I was like, I just kind of force it down because you have to eat, right? So, like, that's just what it is. I had a lot of water on hand, and I just kind of, but that's one thing to look for. They obviously checked me for throat cancer, didn't end up having that. They also said that that's a big thing in the valley here in Utah, where they've noticed a lot of between 25 and 35 or 40 young men getting it, because it's the air quality apparently inflames your throat as well. So anyway, went through that, and they scoped me down to my upper small intestines, and saw a smoothing in the lining. So for people that don't know what that is, if you've been to basic biology class, I'm not a doctor, so bear with me here, but usually there are these little things that look like this in your esophagus, little, I forgot what they're called, but they're like little hairs basically that pick up the nutrients that allow you to absorb it and distribute it throughout your body. And if that is smoothed out, then they obviously don't have as much surface area to be able to pick up the nutrients and process it properly. And that could be caused by, again, inflammation, a bad reaction to certain things. In my case, obviously gluten. And so that's not something you want. Obviously, bloating, inflammation, and then yeah, problems in the bathroom. We'll just go there.
Yeah.
All of those things are things to look for. If you're having that consistently, that's not normal. You shouldn't feel that way. I recommend going and getting it checked out, because celiac can eventually lead to other issues like cancer and things like
Hmm.
that if you don't treat it properly, or just completely destroying your life like that Papa John's pizza did. So, but all of those things, guys, like I just want to highlight that. I don't think I've ever actually talked about it. Just things to look for, because it's something that you don't think about. You're like, oh, maybe that was just a bad meal last night or whatever. If it happens consistently, kind of keep an eye on that, and you should probably go get it checked out just in case. It might save your life, and then you can thank me later. But
Yeah. Like even like a lot of my friends, I think they're starting to have, like my buddy that I was just talking about, that we do like double dates or whatever. He stopped drinking beer because, and that's a big one.
hmm
People call it the beer. I don't know if you want me to cuss or not, the
I don't care.
SHITS
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
But they he would be like just in the bathroom after having beer and stuff, and um, so that's a big one. And I actually lost in 30 days after cutting out gluten, I lost 21 pounds just in inflammation, just like
Yep.
water weight. And there's a photo of my wife and I at like Steak 44 or Ocean 44, whatever it was, for her birthday. And my face is like this
hmm
wide. Um, I look at him like, why were you with me? Like, what did you see? Like, just like, oh
You're
my
good at
gosh.
cooking.
Yeah, exactly. But it's crazy how much you can like any allergy, like especially like if you're having, for anyone that has like stomach issues or whatever after you eat, if you just kind of eliminate, you can go down a thing just for do it for 2 weeks or a month, cut out gluten, cut out dairy, you can start kind of without even having to go to a doctor. You can kind of like, hey, what did I eat last night? Let's kind of like reverse engineer. Okay, I ate this, this, and this. Let's cut out, and you cut out one item, and then um and you'll feel a lot better like cutting out. Like my sister-in-law, she's dairy, so it kind of like, and she's living with us right now, so we I try not to use any milk, so I'll use, she can have ghee but she can't have grass-fed butter, so I'll
Mm,
just buy the grass-fed ghee, because it filters out the majority of all the milk solids.
mm.
um And then like if it calls for milk, I'll throw in almond milk or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not cooking for a Michelin star restaurant, so you
Yeah.
can. I mean, obviously you can tell the difference between heavy whipping cream and almond milk, but it still tastes good.
Oh yeah.
But
No, for
yeah,
sure.
but to your
And
point, it'll like the cancer thing. That's the only reason why I stopped eating gluten because my wife, she's like, it'll lead to colon cancer,
mhm.
and I'm like, and I don't want, I don't think any, I wouldn't wish this on anyone to have a colostomy bag, but that's
Yeah.
something I never want to
Yeah.
deal with or anything like that. So
Exactly, exactly. And you know that's literally the way I look at it now when I look at a pizza or something like that. I'm like, that's cancer. And that's how it's been easy for me to like that's
yeah,
how I've you know in my brain kind of retrained my brain to look at it and be like, okay, like that's not worth it because you know and we went down the rabbit hole of Asian food and then other explaining what gluten intolerance is, but um you know the Asian food was definitely one for me as well, with the soy sauces and the breadings, pizza, and then some pastas. I'm not a huge pasta nerd, but there was sometimes I just want, you know, I actually grew
mm-hmm.
up every Sunday night we'd have spaghetti dinner. And that was just my thing. Spaghetti with some meat sauce and a good salad and a ice cold cup of, now I know it as chalk water, but skim milk, you know, stuff like that. And that's what we would have with some garlic bread every Sunday. And so like I can even smell it right now, right? And I
It's
absolutely love
nostalgic.
that. But yeah, but you can make alternates that actually taste honestly just as good. I've found certain noodles that don't fall apart, like Play-Doh, certain chickpea noodles that I use instead of regular pasta noodles. But the other interesting thing too was I went to Italy and I was like, you know what? Like a couple days here and even just one meal isn't going to kill me. It's not going to give me that cancer that I've trained my brain to think about. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to try this and see what happens. I said, worst comes to worst, I'm, you know, in the restroom for a couple hours, whatever, have to deal with that. And then I'm good for the rest of the trip. Best situation, I get to enjoy Italy, right? And I didn't have any issues whatsoever. I tried everything from the bread to the pasta to everything. Like I ate pizza out the wazoo. I had all their fried stuff, like all of it. And I will tell you, it was interesting going from where we were out in the countryside where everything smelled like olive trees and lemons. And it was just fresh and just amazing. Like we made our own pizzas and stuff, just super fresh dough and all that, to being in the city where everything smelled like beer, piss, and cigarettes. The food quality, it was still better than the US, I will say, but you could tell a difference. And I was like, man, I love the freshness of being in the countryside. Um, have you ever gone to a place outside of the US and tried their bread, especially like European countries?
No, but my brother-in-law's friend, she's had celiac since she was 8. So,
Mm,
which I was like, oh my God, that'd be terrible.
yeah,
I don't like because I didn't even know what it was
yeah.
6 years ago, 10 years
Oh yeah.
ago. Like it wasn't anything like I was like, oh, I told my wife that I thought I like had just an efficient bowel system or whatever. She's like, no, this is not.
That's
She's
not
like, this is
efficient.
not right. This is not right. No, but so she went to Italy and she was able to eat all of it. So I really want to go, and it's
Yeah.
because they haven't modified their wheat. The way it was explained to me is the gluten protein is like 1,000 times harder to digest because we've modified our wheat here
Mm,
so much in the states that it's just the gluten protein's too, I guess, strong, and
yeah.
our just most bodies can't. Well, 1 in 6 or 5 or whatever
Yeah.
can't tolerate it. Um,
Your body
it
treats it almost like a toxin, basically,
yeah.
at that
The-
point.
Have you had the? Because you're probably talking about the Bonza
Yep.
pasta. Yeah,
The orange
I've had
box.
that. Yep, the orange box. I the one I really like is Jovial. I think it's a
Jovial.
green
Okay.
box, and it's not chickpea. I don't remember what it is, but try that. That one is really good. They have a lot of different shapes.
Mm,
They do. They have a lot. They even have like the shotgun shells. Like you can do. Um, like my wife, she saw a video and basically stood them all like up in like
mm,
a circular pan and then put sauce in all of it, and it actually tasted really good. It was like kind of like a stuffed shells thing. She put cheese and sauce inside of it while they're like all stacked up. But yeah, check
Oh,
out
that's cool.
Jovial.
Jovial. Okay, cool. So,
That's probably the best I've had.
yeah. So the big reason why I liked the chickpea is just for the macros standpoint, the protein
Oh,
content in
yeah.
it. That one is 100% the best chickpea one that I've tried. There was one other one that was good, but it didn't have, like, I think per serving, there's like 23 grams of protein or something like that in a serving of Bonza noodles. So it's
Dang.
like, it's obviously plant protein, so it's not as good as meat protein. And
Yeah.
yes, I said that. I'll say that to anyone. It is
Yeah.
not nearly as good for you as meat
Yep.
protein, but it's still protein, so that's a big thing. But yeah, there's other ones. I'll definitely have to look at Jovial and see what they've got going. And then anyway, so you said Asian food. What were the other two big ones that for you giving up was kind of like, oh, this sucks?
I think more just like when you go out to eat, just
Mm,
appetizers.
mm,
The Asian food and that I would say is probably because I've learned how to make just about everything to
mm-hmm.
where I'm like, I'll just make it at home or
Yeah.
whatever. And but yeah, going out to eat, I would say Asian. Probably, I would say that's my only one that I
Yeah.
like really miss. And just like you, we're not really pasta people every now and then. But I would say probably pizza is the other one. To where like, okay, let's just the game's on or whatever. I'm not even a big sports fan, but we'll like playoff Super Bowl, whatever. It's nice to
Yeah.
have like just pizza and wings or whatever. So now I just typically get a gluten-free pizza to myself since they're only 10 inches. It's pretty standard. And then I'll just get wings because most places you can have them. Depending, like
Mm-hmm.
you can get them grilled or they just have a designated fryer for them or they're just baked in the oven. So it's just like asking those questions, like, and it sucks because I'm not even the most confrontational person, and I just like f it, whatever. My wife's like, no, ask, like she's like,
Mm-hmm.
get it, try it, or whatever. And I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with it. And then we'll be some places. We went to this sushi restaurant, and the guy didn't even know if their rice was gluten free, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get sick here. I'm like,
Yeah.
rice is naturally gluten free, so
Yeah.
I'm
And you
like,
don't know that. So
yeah,
yeah. Mm.
it's like, yeah, this is not our spot. Like, I haven't been back to that sushi restaurant.
Yeah. No, I hear you. That's and that does get a little sketchy sometimes when you go out. You kind of end up picking certain spots that that you can
Mm,
trust and things like that. And it can be honestly even even if you're not gluten free, it can be a good thing to cut down on the amount of wheat that you're taking in, just because it's not empty calories like alcohol or something like that, but it's a lot of filler basically,
mm,
like when you're eating, like you're getting full on or not full, like if you eat a bag of chips or whatever, you're getting not full on a lot of calories, and then you still want to eat more, versus things that are more gluten free or definitely lean more towards the meat side of things, and rice, and that will definitely fill you a lot more, or veggies even will give you a lot more filling and a lot more nutrient dense food on that end as well, which is always good, because if you can get more nutrient dense food and you fill up in that way, that can also help you with just getting healthier in general, like even if you're not into tracking food or whatever. But the other thing too, like with the proteins, um, that's another thing that I've personally noticed, like, and I've talked about it a couple times with different protein powders that you use as well. Uh, some protein powders are mass produced, and so they're trying to basically flash cook that protein to get it out as fast as possible. And it does something similar to like that gluten protein, where a lot of people can't process it. That's where all the issues from bloating and protein farts and all that stuff come from, because your body's like, I don't know what the frick this is, so I'm just trying to get it out as soon as possible,
yeah.
because I can't handle it, right? And so there's a lot to be said about how we've screwed up our wheat here in the U.S. Just trying to mass produce it. Same thing with like all the GMO stuff, the genetically modified things that are out there with corn, wheat, and everything else, just to try and mass produce it. It's crazy what's happened now over the years.
Yeah, and it is, and like even my wife with like the whole gluten, she doesn't have any issues with gluten, but she's noticed like her hands and joints are a lot better. Or she'll know
Mm.
like if she has a heavy gluten night or like pasta or pizza or whatever, she notices it the next day to where she's like, oh, I just feel like everything's tight and whatever. And we eat a lot of red meat. Like we buy, my in-laws have a cabin in
Mm.
Colorado, like near Telluride, kind of. It's like outside of Dolores, in between there and Telluride, and we buy a cow from one of the ranches or whatever there, and so we eat a lot of red meat, and we eat that, and we'll go through 3 or 4 um, uh, 18 carton eggs um, a week, and then trying to think, we eat or like a bunch of organs and stuff, and trying to think of some other stuff, but we just feel so much better. I hate like how you said the whole red meat thing, or like the protein wise, as opposed to like veggie. Um, like our skin looks better, our hair looks, but everything about it. My wife and I talk about it, like how much better we feel eating good, clean meat.
Brief interruption here, guys. I just want to remind you of this giveaway that we have for a pair of the SheepFeet bombers. These are the stealth bombers, guys. It's got a very thick sole right here, which is different from any other stocking shoe out there. You're going to get the knobbies here on the bottom, and they're in the shape of the SheepFeet logo, and that's going to keep you from slipping everywhere. The felt is going to keep you from being loud. The thickness of that is going to allow you to not get poked by the things that you're stepping on, whether it be rocks or cactus or whatever it is. And then the mesh up here on the top keeps it breathable, lightweight, and allows you to use it in the water if needed. Camp shoe, stalking shoe. If you want a pair of these guys, check out the link down below to get entered. And if you're past the week that this giveaway is live with SheepFeet, that's okay. Go check it out. Get the best price possible over at SheepFeet and use the code listed down below so you can get your pair of SheepFeet or the stealth bombers or any of the other items that they've recently released. So let's get back to this conversation here.
Obviously, I hunt as well, so when I get a deer or elk or whatever, um, but that's something I don't think you can replace with. I tried to do I when I was trying to get everything like because I'm still going gluten free, but I was still getting sick for some
Mm.
reason, and I'm like, what is going on? So this doctor, she was like, why don't you try vegan for a couple weeks just to clear your system? And I'm like, okay. It was the worst thing I've ever done in my entire life. I was so tired. I felt so malnourished. I legitimately was taking naps every day, like 2 or 3 naps a day, like even if it's 15 minutes or whatever. Um, it was the worst thing. I'll never do it again. Like I would go carnivore before I went vegan,
Mm-hmm.
like
Oh, yeah.
fully. And I've thought about doing like animal based. I don't know if you've seen Paul Saladino.
I've heard of them,
Um,
yeah.
okay. Um, he's a little extreme, and there's some things or whatever, but I kind of want to try like animal based to an extent, just to see. And like I stopped taking vitamins necessarily. There's a couple I take, but I take the Heart and Soil organ
Mm.
supplements. And I've noticed I feel so much better. I'm sleeping better. Um, Also, cutting alcohol out, it really helps as well. I don't drink. I don't have an issue, but like with COVID, obviously that's a lot of us did or whatever, drink a bunch. And like 2 years ago, I was like, I'm gonna do no alcohol for 90 days,
Mm-hmm.
and just to do it, and I legitimately was having like night sweats and tears and like detoxing off of just not having it, even though I didn't
Mm-hmm.
like drink a lot. I don't snore as much. I just feel better. So now when I drink, it's like, man, you just feel
You feel it.
crappy. So yeah, so I'll do it every now and then, and I work like my other side job is food and drink photographer here in Scottsdale, Phoenix. So I work in the industry, and they're like, "Oh, you want some?" I was like, "No, I'm good," or whatever. And because when you have it, even sometimes I'll have like a sip of a certain wine, I'll get a headache instantly. I'm like,
Mm.
this clearly can't be good for you.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, growing up, LDS, obviously that was taught that alcohol wasn't good for your body, but obviously you still have the opportunity to drink, right? And
Yeah,
people will say, well, it's because you're Mormon, you didn't drink. I'm like, that's where the idea came from. But I also, one thing, that I love about, at least the way I was raised and how I understand the religion that I'm a part of is this very free thinking of here's the guidelines, here's what we recommend, they even give you a why, not just because God said so. And then go out and make your decisions. And I just saw how alcohol affected people, even in high school, the
yeah,
violence that happened. People would come back and they'd be like, "Yeah, so and so got shot this weekend because of a party and they were drinking or they were high or whatever." And I'm like, so for me, there was a lot of reasons why. And then I would see people when they would take shots, the faces they would make afterwards. I'm like, why would I? Why would I want to do that? Like,
yeah,
like one, that's a lot of money to make the ugliest face ever. And the other thing too that a lot of people point out is social lubricant. I'm like, I don't personally. I'm blessed in the fact that I don't need that. Like I could
yeah,
spark a conversation with anybody, and so all of the reasons to drink I didn't have growing up, and so it wasn't just because I was Mormon, right? But obviously, I've noticed it's funny because as you get older, you realize a lot of people stop drinking or drinking as heavily, and it's
hmm
because they're recognizing how it can wreck your body. I don't say that everyone needs to stop. I have people that used to drink that are like, well, I do. I say you need to stop. Don't do it anymore. But uh, it is a part of society and a lot of business meetings and stuff like that. So, but in moderation, just like anything else, it can be okay. And so that's cool that you've noticed that as well with your own body, and going down that rabbit hole. So let's see here. I did want to ask you too about photography. So you've obviously got a 9 to 5. That's what I'll call it, even though we don't work
yeah.
9 to 5. We've got our standard jobs that pay the bills. But how did you get into photography, and what got you going down that rabbit hole?
So yeah, so I really Aaron Snyder, who's a friend of mine, uh, I called him to buy a pack from Kafaru about I think it was 2015,
Hmm.
July of 2015, whatever. Kind of went down that rabbit hole, and then following him, he was really into photography, and I was just like, dang, I really want to take photos like that. Like that's really sick. So just kind of got into it as a hobby. Bought my first camera in January of 2016.
What'd you
Um,
start with?
Canon 6D
Okay.
with the 50 millimeter 1.8. So I mean, at the time, now I'm like, oh, that's a piece of shit or whatever. Not, I mean, it's not. It's a great camera, but now, like
Yeah.
from what I have, but I
What are you
jumped
running
in
now, if you don't mind me asking?
the Canon, the R5.
Okay, so you're a Canon
Yep.
guy.
Well, so I've come full circle on the whole Canon thing. So went to Canon, bought the 6D, bought several lenses, um, and then really like just jumped in both
Hmm.
feet. Like when I do something, I like to fully commit to doing it. Like I don't like to just like,
Yeah.
oh, whatever. So then like 2017 rolled around and I bought the Sony A7R2.
Mm.
Um,
It's a
and
big one.
I bought a, yeah, I bought a lot of lenses for that. And I didn't love the colors with Sony. I felt like, I mean, this is 2017, so it's not like a lot of it has progressed from what I've seen in Sony. It had more like a orange yellow tint to it with like skin tones and stuff. And
Mm.
at the time, I was shooting like portraits. I wasn't doing as much food and drink and products. So sold that, went to Nikon, got the D850, which I think is probably the best DSLR. I think that in history, probably. Um, and then they were coming out with the Z6 and 7, and I didn't love what I was seeing. So I went to the Canon R5, and I actually told Aaron, I was like, "You got to get the R5," and like he didn't do it for a while. Like I think he had Mark IVs, um, the the 5D Mark IV. And then he finally switched and got it. He's like, dude, I should have bought this way earlier because he runs the R3 and R5 now. And he's like, this is probably one of the best cameras I've ever used. Like, I love it. I've had it for 3 years now. Still rocking it. But yeah, I do love photos. And so it just started. Long story short, long story long. Started just taking landscapes. And then people were like, why don't you take photos of like people for money or whatever? Because I would take like on family trips and take candids. So I kind of went down the portrait rabbit hole. I didn't love it as much. I hate posing people. That's not my thing. I'm not good at it. By that, I'm openly. I can take a good photo, but I don't like posing people.
See, and that's the thing too for me. Just to kind of hit on that real quick, I like capturing people in the moment. I don't like posing people. And like even when we were in Italy, like I'd see a dude, an old guy, just the typical what you would think Italy, right? He's by this cliff, but he was on a bench reading a newspaper, old dude with his readers on down to here. And I was just like, oh, that's a perfect shot. Like you got the background, and so I turn around, like the group is walking off and I turn around and I'm like snapping some photos. I'm like, man, this will look really good in black and white. And I'm walking off. My wife's like, did you just take? I'm like, yeah, trust me. And then I showed her a picture later and she was like, wow, okay. She's like, how? Yeah. And it's something that you can't really, and I'm not an expert photographer, guys, by any means. I'm not saying that, but like there's something that clicks when you like photography, that different things, like some people absolutely love portraits and posing people. I don't. And it sounds like you're the same way.
I'm the same way.
But capturing people in the moment, like when people notice you have a camera and they start doing stuff weird, I'm like, dang it. All right. And then I have to walk off and come back later because I'm like, no, like, or people will try and move out of the way or like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in your shot. I'm like, no,
you were my shot.
Job. Yeah, it's the photographer's job to move around you, not the other way around. Like, Yeah. But anyway.
Yep. So did the portraits thing, and then my buddy was kind of in like the alcohol influencer space. His name's on Instagram. It's Apartment Bartender. I feel like he kind of pioneered the making drinks at home. This was like 2017, so kind of got me into the drink space. And then he moved, and then I kind of he would send me contacts like, hey, this person needs photos. Do you want to go do them? Whatever. So I started just doing a lot of food and drink photos and products. Like I built a studio here in my garage, and then I make sets in the living room or whatever. So yeah, I do almost exclusively food and drink and product stuff. Now, every now and then, a family that I know will ask me to do photos, and I'll do it. They're like, "You didn't post the photos." I said, "I'm not going to." Like I was like, "I'll reshare it if you tag me," but I said I just don't like it. I don't want to get those jobs, so that's why I don't advertise it. But yeah, so and it's something that I've kind of like have my head down in a grind right now. Like I would like to leave my 9 to 5, even though I usually am waking up at like 5 or 6 to get all my stuff done to where I can run out and do photo shoot or whatever if I have to. But yeah, it's good though. Like it's I'm busy, but it's a good busy with doing photos and products, and especially products like Montana Knife or whomever, Kafaru, or I know they like a lot of lifestyle stuff, but especially like product stuff, like studio work, like if I can do it at home and I don't have to leave the family or whatever, it's good. And that's kind of like, I think what I'm doing now will pay dividends later to where I can have a lot more time down the road to shoot more stuff, go out and take some time off, and then my kids will be older. I can bring them out and do some lifestyle stuff. But yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely haven't gone into the Canon too much. I kind of did the overall all around camera. It's actually what my webcam is now for for podcasts. But the Sony, so it's the top of the line that they make for APS-C. So it's not a full frame. It's the A6700. And so I love it. It's a great hybrid for both. It's got the battery size of a full frame camera.
Yeah,
It
it's a
does
great
some
camera.
things that, yeah, it does some things like a full frame camera, but I didn't quite need the full frame yet because I'm not there. I'm not doing stuff professionally like you. So, it's a good camera, but no, I've heard, obviously there's things that Sony lovers don't like about Canon and vice versa,
Yeah,
but whatever fits your need, honestly, it's just like in archery, there's so many sight options out there. There's so many bow options out there. It's like, you can't really say this one is the best bow. You can say it's the best bow for you, but you can't say it is the only bow for everyone because it's really not.
yeah,
And so that's cool to hear that kind of full circle that you came with Canon, um, and that you do this stuff professionally. So, with that being said, if people want to, can they reach out to you if they need something done? You obviously do more
yeah.
products and stuff like
Yep,
that, but
most definitely. Yeah, definitely. So I have like actually I have like 4 or 5 pages that I run, but I do. So I have my personal, which more like hunting. That's on there, and then obviously my life. But that's TJM Perez. The food or the food like recipes is that gluten free dad, and then my photo one for like food and drink and products is TJ Perez Photography. But yeah, you can reach me on any one of those. Yeah, if you need any photos of products or whatever, definitely reach out and would love to work with anyone.
cool. Awesome. Well, I will definitely leave those links down below. But I guess to kind of wrap this up here, because I also have to do the dad thing. I know you. So TJ before this had to go run kids because his wife's not feeling too well. And now I'm doing the other thing where it's in the summer, so our kids
Yep.
have dance and stuff going on as well. And so for the most part, they do a good job of entertaining themselves. We've got a great neighborhood that has a bunch of kids in it that we either have half the neighborhood over here or our kids are going to places where you trust the parents and know that kids aren't going to get into the internet or anything like that while
Yeah.
they're over there. But with that, what I guess what is you're into archery? Do you have any hunting plans this year for archery?
For archery, I didn't get drawn for Arizona or Colorado.
Hmm.
So I may be doing just over the counter for Arizona. My son's due July 29th. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it for like archery here because it's like
Yep.
August 17th or whatever. But I'll probably do archery over the counter in December. And then I'll be going to Texas. Actually, my dad's cousin has a lease in Abilene, I think it's
Okay.
something like that. And I think you can shoot 5 deer. It'll be 2 bucks and 3 does. I think so. I'll probably bring my bow and a rifle just to be able to use both. We'll see, but my dad's I'm gonna bring Ford, who's my oldest son. He'll be 3 in September, but I'm gonna bring
Nice.
him, my dad, and we'll be in Texas and then Arizona. So um, hopefully get to put some stuff down.
Sweet. No, good. Good. Definitely. That's awesome. And then I do want to ask, what's your favorite big game meat to cook? And then what is your favorite way to cook it? Like recipe. You don't have to break down the full recipe, but what you call the recipe, and how you like to cook it.
So I like deer more than elk. I think
Really?
I like the gaminess more of deer. I don't know if it's just the deer here in Arizona. But honestly, it's really easy. I don't know if it's more nostalgic because when I first side note, my very first archery hunt, uh, that I first got a bow, I shot a deer 2 weeks after I bought a bow, which I didn't realize how hard that like it's
Yeah.
just a little forky spike, whatever. But still, I still shot one, which is it's not as easy as I thought it was. But just frying up in peanut oil, just 1 inch cubes of deer meat, and then throwing like Tony Sacheries on it. Um, I don't know if it's more nostalgic because I don't know if it was Meat Eater that posted that, or I don't know where my dad found like just that way to do it. But I don't know,
Mm.
it's so good, and you can just sit by the stove top frying up deer and just have people like you're just all talking probably in the kitchen, or you could be outside at camp, just peanut oil, frying up the deer, and then finish it after with the little Tony Sacheries. That's probably. I mean, obviously, I like backstrap. I'll sous vide it for like 2 hours at 120, 122 degrees, depending on who's coming over, and then I'll throw that on the green egg, give it a char. Um, that's probably my other favorite way, but I think nostalgically, I think the frying on with peanut oil and Tony Sacheries, I don't think you can beat it.
Wow, that's those are all firsts for what I've heard. Yeah, you definitely don't hear deer as the favorite for a lot of people. I'll have to come down and get Arizona deer and see if
Yeah.
there's any difference. Which I like the deer honestly. It's funny because we're going through our freezer right now, just trying to clear out some space for this upcoming season. But the the thing that we do a lot of ground with like taco seasonings from Redmond salt or um, that one's a basic one that was real easy. Just have a bunch of ground meat in the fridge, and my daughter actually, as that's all she's been eating this last week, is just rice and taco seasoned deer meat. And it's cool because I love cooking up meat that either you've hunted or you were a part of the hunt, um, where you can explain the situation and how things went. It just has another meaning behind it. And then if you
Yeah.
know how to cook it well, don't do more than medium. I'd even say don't do more than medium rare if you're doing it steak
Yeah.
style.
Buy a
Keeping it.
thermometer,
Yeah, yes, get a thermometer.
especially for deer, elk, or any game.
Yes, exactly. Definitely want that because you don't want to make it jerky basically. And once you
Yeah.
hit that medium and above, it becomes jerky almost. Um, and what's interesting too is there's different cuts that can come out tough when maybe in a previous animal it wasn't tough. That's the interesting part about game meat as well. But yeah, it's fun to hear, and I'll have to try that out. I don't think I've ever just done 1 inch cubes like that. We did. What did we use? I want to say it was heart. My heart is my son's favorite. Doesn't matter what animal. He
That's
loves
one of
little.
mine too.
Yeah, and it's just a rich. And if you cut them thin slices, usually we do like I'll either throw them in. Maybe that it's similar where you put it in some oil and cook it up that way, just on a pan, or we breaded it with like corn breading, which it wasn't amazing, but I mixed in a little bit of seasonings in it. Probably won't do that again, but made little nuggets out of it. He loved it. But yeah, heart is one of our, if not our favorite cut.
Yeah, I would
Showing
say
him
that
how.
now that you say that, it's probably, I would say, top three. And throw in, like, you can marinate it, and you can throw
Mm,
some vinegar. Throw some vinegar, and you can throw buttermilk in there as well. It'll pull some of that irony taste out of it.
mm,
Vinegar, a good oil, and then Montreal steak seasoning.
okay.
And then you can pull it out of the bag and then fry it same way, peanut oil, and then with a little Montreal steak seasoning. That's probably one of and my son loves it too. He eats everything. He eats sushi. He eats heart. He eats javelina. Like
Mm, yeah.
he likes all food. But
Yeah,
that's
we've
awesome.
tried liver and kidneys. Not a big fan. I know a lot of people like the kidneys part too, but liver is too strong. I can't even do cow liver. Like it's just too strong, and it's just a weird texture. But heart is definitely something that we keep. It's one of the first things we cook up whenever we get back off the mountain. So cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Thanks for hopping on today, man, and sharing a little bit about yourself. And hopefully people out there listening definitely go check out TJ, what he has going for you. If you have any products that you're wanting that kind of fit his niche as well, let him know, and he'll definitely get some good photos for you. And also, if you're gluten free out there, if you're one of those 1 in 6 people that have that issue, or maybe you don't even realize you have that issue, try some of his recipes, compare it with the non gluten free version, and let us know what you think. I'm sure TJ would be happy to hear that feedback as well. And as he's growing his side of things, and then eventually YouTube, and also I think by the time this comes out, you'll probably have a new baby. So,
Yep.
we'll see how that goes. But yeah, being a dad, man, that's exciting. Absolutely love it. Wouldn't wish anything different about my life
Yep.
either. So you seem
Definitely.
to be the same way. Anything else you want to leave with the people before we head out?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for having me on, and I really appreciate it. And well, the only thing I will say is I have a saying my buddy told me. My best friend's brother, we were at his wedding, and he was like, "I'm gonna tell them to dust your ass with flour." So that's what, like, if you see, he's like, so he said. So now we have a saying like, "Don't get dusted" or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll be out to eat, and my mother-in-law will be like, if I do get sick or like cross contamination, she'll like tell the waitress he got dusted, and like the girl's like, "What the hell? Like, what does that even mean?" Like, she's like so confused, but
That's
it is a
hilarious.
funny thing. Don't get dusted. Like,
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. That's cool. Well, guys, definitely go check out TJ's work. TJ, thanks again for your time today. Hope everyone out there has an amazing Saturday, amazing weekend. Go spend some time with family and loved ones. And like I always say, guys, get out, live your life, and love it.
thank you.